Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into one of the most fascinating, literally non-stop biological factories on the entire planet. And the craziest part? It's happening right inside of you, every single time you take a bite of food. We're going to break down the incredible coordination it takes to turn your everyday lunch into the actual building blocks of your body. It's a pretty simple question, right? But the answer is wonderfully complex. Like, how exactly does a turkey sandwich, an apple, or a slice of pizza miraculously transform into the invisible fuel that powers your brain, flexes your muscles, and repairs your cells? Understanding this whole process isn't just a biology lesson. It's actually about understanding what sustains your everyday life, your energy, and your growth. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our game plan for today. We'll start with the dual process, move on to the physical breakdown, and then tackle the chemical breakdown. After that, we'll look at capturing the nutrients and finally wrap up with the ultimate tag team.
All right, part one, the dual process, mechanical versus chemical.
So digestion is this highly coordinated two-part system designed to basically shrink your food. And the first half of that system is mechanical digestion. Think of this as the heavy machinery of the factory. It's all about pure physical force. We're talking about smashing, crushing, and grinding food into smaller and smaller pieces. The absolutely key thing to remember here is that during mechanical digestion, the chemical composition of the food doesn't change at all. No chemical bonds are broken. That bite of carbohydrate is still the exact same carbohydrate, it's just in a much, much smaller package. Now, contrast that physical smashing with our second process, chemical digestion. This is where the microscopic workers step in. Chemical digestion relies on digestive enzymes, and these act as biological catalysts to speed up reactions. Now, unlike mechanical digestion, this process actually breaks the chemical bonds, holding those large food molecules together. It structurally transforms your food into entirely different, tiny molecules that are finally small enough to be absorbed right into your bloodstream. Moving on to part two, the physical breakdown, smashing and grinding. Let's walk through this mechanical assembly line step by step. It all kicks off in your mouth, where your teeth actively cut, tear, and grind up the food. Meanwhile, your tongue is mixing it all with saliva to form a soft little ball known as a bolus. Once you swallow, your esophagus takes over. It uses these rhythmic muscle contractions called peristalsis to physically push that bolus downward. Then, boom, we hit the stomach. Down there, powerful, smooth muscles violently churn the food, mixing it with gastric juices until it becomes this semi-liquid soup called chyme. And finally, in the small intestine, a process called segmentation repeatedly mixes that chyme, making sure the physical movement of the food keeps going right alongside those chemical workers. Now, you might be wondering, why is all this physical prep work so absolutely crucial? Well, it's because mechanical digestion drastically increases the surface area of the food. Imagine trying to dissolve a solid giant block of salt in water versus just stirring in a spoonful of fine table salt. The fine salt dissolves almost instantly because way more of it is exposed to the water, right? Mechanical digestion does exactly that for your food. Without it, your enzymes literally wouldn't have enough exposed surface area to do their jobs efficiently. All right, part three, the chemical breakdown, molecular teardown. Think of carbohydrate digestion like a highly specific disassembly line. It actually starts way up in the mouth. An enzyme called salivary amylase gets right to work breaking complex starches down into a simpler sugar called maltose. Now, this process actually hits pause in the acidic environment of your stomach, but it picks right back up in the small intestine. Down there, pancreatic amylase continues attacking the starch, and a new enzyme called maltase steps in to convert that maltose into pure glucose. So, starch goes to maltose, and maltose goes to glucose. It's a systematic, step-by-step teardown. Protein digestion is a slightly different beast because proteins are these incredibly tough, tightly folded structures. Their breakdown doesn't even start until they hit the stomach, and they require some pretty extreme conditions. First, hydrochloric acid actually denatures or unfolds the proteins to expose their bonds. Only then can the enzyme pepsin step in to chop those long proteins into shorter chains called peptides. After that, as the food moves into the small intestine, enzymes like trypsin keep up the work until peptidases finally convert those peptides into individual, absorbable amino acids. And finally, we have fat digestion. This happens entirely down in the small intestine and requires a really unique two-step dance. See, fats don't mix well with water, so they tend to clump together into big globs. To solve this, your liver produces a substance called bile. Now, bile is not an enzyme. Its job is completely physical. It emulsifies the fats, breaking those large globs into tiny droplets, which again increases that vital surface area. Once the fats are emulsified, the enzyme pancreatic lipase can swoop in and chemically snap the triglycerides into tiny fatty acids and glycerol molecules.
Let's move to part 4, capturing the nutrients, reaping the rewards. So almost all nutrient absorption happens in the small intestine. But a smooth, flat tube wouldn't be very good at catching all those fast-moving molecules, right? Biology has a brilliant fix for this. The lining of your small intestine is covered in literally millions of tiny finger-like projections called villi. And those villi, they're covered in even smaller microvilli. To put that into perspective, if you were to flatten out all these microscopic folds, the surface area of your small intestine would be roughly the size of a tennis court. It's wild. This massive surface area guarantees that practically no nutrient goes to waste.
Okay, so once these nutrients are captured by the villi, where exactly do they go? Well, it depends on the nutrient. The glucose from your carbohydrates and the amino acids from your proteins, they get absorbed directly into your bloodstream, ready to be whisked away to whatever hungry cells need them. But the fatty acids and glycerol from your digested fats take a slightly different route. They actually get absorbed into your lymphatic system first, before eventually making their way over into your bloodstream. And that brings us to part 5, the ultimate tag team, working together. Let's look at these two processes side by side because it brilliantly illustrates how much they rely on each other. Mechanical digestion is physical, chemical digestion is molecular. Mechanical breaks 0 chemical bonds, chemical exists specifically to break those bonds. Mechanical relies on the brute force of your teeth and muscles just to increase surface area, while chemical relies on the extreme precision of enzymes to produce the final absorbable nutrients. They are totally distinct but 100% interdependent. So let's recap the absolute core takeaways from today's explainer. Mechanical digestion changes the size of your food, chemical digestion changes the actual structure of your food, and crucially, both processes must work perfectly in tandem. Without the physical, mechanical prep work, the chemical enzymes are just way too slow. But without the chemical enzymes, the mechanically smashed food is still far too large to ever enter your blood. Together, they form this ultimate biological tag team that produces the fuel your body demands for energy, growth, and repair. It really is a total marvel of biological engineering. From the very moment you take a bite, this highly organized assembly line of teeth, muscles, acids, and enzymes kicks into high gear, transforming the food from the world around you into the very fabric of your body. So, here's my question for you. The next time you sit down for a meal, will you picture the invisible, tireless factory working away inside you right at that moment? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep staying curious about the amazing machines we call our bodies.